shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish till the day that I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Beaver Kill River. Might even catch and release one or two. Well, some folks like horses, cats or dogs. Me, I like fishing with a rod and a fly. Yes, fishing is a favorite pastime of mine. If I couldn't do it, I think I would cry. Well, life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Trout is rising in the far eddy. I make a false cast, then take my aim. Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome to today's show of Riffles and Waves. I'm Curtis Mayfly, your host. Today we're going to tie a light Cahill. Okay, this represents a dry fly. We're getting into the dry flies. We did a hare's ear nymph, we did a stonefly, and so by now you should be tying with a little bit of confidence, and you're learning a lot of skills. You're dubbing and you're palmering. You're tying a wing, thorax, and you're getting involved in a lot of stuff right now. And you should be able to tie almost any fly. Now this fly here uses any color neck that you have or cape, and you just use a long thick quill and you strip it, and that becomes your body. And then we're going to take a little hackle here for the hackle, and then we're going to use some lemon wood duck for the wings, and of course we're going to match our thread. I got a light thread here to the fly we're tying. Now you could tie a red quill, a blue quill, or anything just by changing the color of the neck you're going to use, and you're going to strip a quill off of that neck for that body. So let's get started. Here's our microfibers for the tail. Here's our stripped quill that we're going to use around the body. Here's our lemon wood duck for the wing, and our little bit of hackle. Okay, and I need a hook, and I'm going to place a hook in the vise. I'm going to wrap the thread over it, jam knot, and wrap it back, keeping this other tag end at a 45-degree angle. Allows you to wrap fairly fast and tight. Lost my scissors. Nip that off. Now, when you're using the microfibers tail materials, you want to make a little ball of thread right here. Okay, and what that will do will splay. You take a little bunch of these. You don't have to count them. Doesn't have to be two. Doesn't have to be anything. I've never seen a trout that could count to date. I'll put those on there, and the tail should be measured the same length as the shank. So the tail should be right there. I'm going to cut this off, and then we're going to pinch like we did on the hare's ear nip. Pinch and pull up. Pinch and pull up. Once you get a few wraps on there, we're going to hold the tail in place. We're going to wrap back to the bend. You're going to see how nicely those will splay because of that little ball. See that? Got a nice little tail there. Okay, now for our stripped hackle. And some folks will tie the wings in first. I don't like to do that because they're in the way then. Okay, so we're going to wrap this on there, wrap back over the body, and then bring it back to here, the shoulder. Okay, now we're going to wrap this hackle around, and you can use hackle pliers if you want. It's not necessary, but this makes a nice quill body for a light Cahill. This is probably a male. The males are a little skinnier than the females. Just wrap that, each wrap right in front of the next one till you get up to your shoulder. Okay, now we're going to hold this, we're going to wrap around it a couple of times. Usually that breaks right off, but okay. Now I like to put my hackle on. And as you can see, I'm leaving a lot of empty hackle there because I stripped the base. That way your first couple of winds will be with no hackle, because this is going to go around the hook. So now we're going to take our wing material, and this is a way that I found that's really fast and easy. We're going to get our hackle, our lemon wood duck. We're going to cut this center piece out. And you can save that tip if you're worried about it. We're going to take these feathers and pinch them and then cut the hackle. Okay? Now we're going to measure that, this length of the shank. Okay? And then pinch and cut. And then pinch this on here and tie it down. Okay? Now, the trick to my wing method is to pull it forward. Okay. Then you push on it. And then you take your dubbing needle and you split it into 2 equal parts. Okay. Not hard to do. Now, the trick is, once you split it into 2 equal parts, you push forward so that they stay separated. Get a little thread here. And then carefully wrap up between the two. Carefully. Oops. And after a couple of wraps, your wings should be upright and in a split V. That's all it takes. As little as wraps as you can possibly do is better. Now we're going to take my hackle pliers. Then we're going to wrap this around. Working each wrap forward. And this is also key. I like to pull my wings forward and wrap the hackle behind it and force those wings a little forward. Okay. And then pull them back and wrap in front of them. This way your wings are going to stay straight up in position and maintain a well-balanced fly. We're going to wrap our hackle and we're going to tie it off. And our fly is done. A little drop of Zap-A-Gap or head cement on that eye and we're done. After we do our knot, And I'm just going to do a half hitch, is what I typically do. And our fly is done. And then you would put your Zap-A-Gap on there. Sorry, I jumped the boat. There we go. Nice little light Cahill dry fly with split wings, and it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to tie this fly. That's a size 14, and that is an awesome fly right there. That fly will just work great. There you have it, folks. That's our light Cahill dry fly. You should be able to tie these in less than 5 minutes. Is all it should take you to tie this fly. Now today, it's January. I'm taping this show. I took a little trip on the January 3rd, I think it was, down to Lordville Creek and the Delaware, and I was just looking at some of the damage, so to speak, caused by the flooding in June 2006. Most of the damage that I saw was man-made. The river seems to have come back as far as it's got holes and deep pools, and it's actually maybe improved on its own. However, there was a lot of houses and things that got destroyed, but that's because they're in the floodplain, and you've heard me talk about that before. But here you go. Take a look at some footage here from January of Lordville Creek and the construction they did down there, and the Delaware. So enjoy this. For those of you who may recall, I did many a show from this spot, and there was a big island right there. One of my favorite places to fish around. And it's all changed now. But I think it's changed for the better because there's a huge hole here right now. I don't know how deep it is, but it's a big hole. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of trout here in the next year or so, and in the future. So rivers change. Change is good. Really nice rapids in there now. That's new. Super large gravel bar on the shallow side of the river, which is now all filled in, which is nice because it actually makes all the current stay in the center channel better, which is good for the trout. Although it looks like a war zone with all the trees gone, but nonetheless, it's all good for the river. This is good for the river, folks. The river looks happy now. Some folks may think this is bad, but this is actually good. A lot of the stone has been piled up on a sandbar in the Delaware, west branch of the Delaware, but now the channel is deeper. That's a good thing. And I don't know why people don't think that, but it is a good thing to have the channel deeper and more moving water. And that's what the river wants to do. The river is happy. Hey folks, Curtis Mayfly here. I'm on the banks of the west branch of the Delaware. It's January 3rd, and it's a gorgeous day out. It's just absolutely gorgeous out. And what I'm doing is I'm down here looking at some of the flood areas and the flooded areas and trying to get a view of whether or not they've been impacted negatively or positively as far as the river goes. And everything I've found so far has been positive. The river has deeper holes, and things are moved around. Of course, after a big flood, you're going to have that. But there's bigger holes, deeper holes, and the channel is more direct. There's a real visible current here, a main fail wag, as so to speak. And I think the river is going to be fishing better than ever in the next few years. The insect life may have been impacted by the flood, but I think overall the river is going to come back better than ever. So, enjoy these shots, and I'm going to head down to Hale Eddy and see what's going on there, and down in Hancock. I want to get some shots of some of the rivers and streams down there. I may take a trip down to Lordville and look at Lordville Creek and what they did to it. So, hey, talk to you later. Hey folks, Curtis Mayfly here. I'm on the banks of Lordville Creek, where they did a lot of repair work this year to protect the road. It's all new pavement, and I'm parked right here by the new guide rails, and you can see behind me that the creek is just totally channelized by stone on both sides. Upstream of here they did a couple of drop pool type structures, but I think it's a waste of time and money if you're going to build a structure like this downstream of it. And you can see behind me that it's, as far as you can see down to the main branch of the Delaware, there's stone and riprap type, well, not riprap, but stone piled up. Riprap is where you have metal wire wrapped around the stones. This is just free stones, but again, it's channelized, and if they ever have a big flood, this thing is going to be roaring through here. If they thought the flood before was bad, wait till they see what happens next time. You mark my words. Curtis Mayfly says so. And this is going to be bad here. I can almost guarantee it. I'd put money on it that I'm going to definitely come down here and check it out when we have a flood. And you can see the banks have already started washing away where they cut trees and things and tried to make it look pretty, like a park. And that's not the way it should be done. We're over a half mile up the road from this bridge. It's all stone, neatly placed, which is going to cause problems during the next flood. The next high water period in here will cause total devastation down here, because the water is going to be flying faster than it ever has in history because of the way they've laid the stone up. They're trying to save the mannequin house, and some of these structures here have been wiped out. But if we have another flood like we did in 2006, all these structures here are going to be gone, just because of the way they laid the stone up along the highway. It's just a mess. So I've been talking about what happens when you channelize a stream and then you have a flood period or a high water period. The amount of water is going to be moving faster through that area than if it were designed properly when they rebuilt this Lordville Creek. But the other real problem is when the spawning rainbows and browns try to swim up this creek. It's going to be extremely difficult. Now, downstream of where I'm standing, they did place, it looks like they made some step pools. It's a very natural looking type structure that they placed. However, I think it's not enough. What they need to do is, from the Lordville Bridge upstream, they need to maintain some more structure there rather than just having this big sluice type channel that's going to be devastating in the next flood for this area. So good luck to the folks here in Lordville when there's another flood, because this place is just going to be roaring. Hey folks, how you doing? Curtis Mayfly here. I'm down here on Fearden's Eddy in Roscoe, and you can see that I got my camera set up on a tree. The water was actually, you can see by the watermarks here, about 5 feet higher than my camera is in the tree lines, which puts it up at above my car. My car must have been underwater. So you can see that the floods here were extraordinarily high, and you can see all kinds of debris stuck in this tree here. And you can see how the bank has been washed away, and it looks like they put stone in here to try to repair it. And I don't think it's going to last if we have another flood like that. But you see how the river has changed from when I first came here 15, 20 years ago. It's completely different now, and it pretty much changed overnight from the floods that we had last year. One of the problems I see here, other than I think I just saw a trout right here, one of the problems here is that it's even more, because it's channelized by the roads and highways, it seems to be getting more flat all the way across. Okay, and that's a problem. Usually when there's flooding, it digs out a deep channel, and there may be a deep channel out here, but it's hard to see at this water level. But it looks to me like this one spot here is fairly flat across the bottom, and that of course is a problem for trout. Fortunately, there are many new deep holes and areas like that that have changed, where there's a deep channel that's roaring through. You can, upstream of me, you can see how wide and flat it is. This used to have a nice channel right through there, and I used to catch a lot of fish here. Hopefully this year we'll be able to catch some more fish here, but it looks a lot different, and that's the main thing I want to get across, is that the river has changed, and the flooding has caused a lot of loss for the people that live here, and hopefully we don't see a big flood like this again for quite a while. But it has done some good to the river. It's changed it, dug out some new holes, and hopefully got rid of some of these flat sections. I haven't walked the whole stream, but I'm pretty much just driving around looking at it. Lordville Creek, on the other hand, is a disaster. The work they did there on Lordville Creek is just going to make things worse for those folks in that town, and unfortunately that they don't realize it. They think they've got this wonderful thing fixed, this little creek fixed. If they have another flood like 2006, that town is going to be gone. It's too bad. They had a big sign there by the bridge. I should have taken a picture of it, but I was upset. It had the words trout on it and had a big circle with an X in it. So they were saying no trout. Nobody's really saying trout over people. Okay? What's good for trout is good for people. What's good for people is good for trout. And that is a stable stream. That doesn't mean a channelized stream. That doesn't mean a drainage ditch. It doesn't mean anything like that. What it means is to stabilize it. Using proper construction techniques, you can repair a stream and make it trout accessible and trout habitat while protecting life and property. Horsebrook, as you can see in the video that I took, is filled in with stones and debris. And where the stones and debris came from is upstream. The work that Trout Unlimited did there only could, go up so far, and that's what the plan called for, and that's what they did. However, on a stream like that, you have to go almost all the way up and do projects on the whole thing in order to prevent the erosion upstream from impacting downstream. So you can see that not all projects are good, or, well, not all projects are always good forever. There's going to be things that change that, and one of those things is you can't, trout unlimited or small groups cannot do a whole stream. You just can't afford to do it, and that's where the FEMA money and the federal money used in flooding should be used to do these projects right from the get-go. This is the time to do it. There's money there, and the problem is it's not being done. It's too bad for Horse Brook that it got all filled in, and all that money that we spent repairing that is pretty much, I wouldn't say wasted, because there are some step pools there. But again, you have to go all the way up the street. You can't just treat one little section here and one little section there. What you do here can have an impact upstream or downstream. And the goal here is to do the proper projects that stabilize the stream, so that when there is a flooding period, there's less property destruction, less erosion. There's always going to be erosion. I just saw a trout rise down there. Huh. Anyway, it's a gorgeous day. It's January 3rd, and I'll see you next week. You gotta see this.
Kurt Nelson.
What?
I came home and told you that very thing, but you didn't see me. No, never mind.
I did too.
Did not.
I did too.
Your car review went back and played that stupid game.